is about time I release a new build for Skyrim, and this one is very special, like the very special edition of Skyrim for Alexa. This is the build based on real events. Well, it's more like based on some nonsense people used to say 1500 years ago, but still. The Ashland rider is based on the character of Attila the Hun and his horse-loving nomadic people, and as such he requires a bit of a history lesson from me. We all know how exciting these can be, so feel free to skip ahead to the next timestamp. Alright, but since you are still here, let's talk about the Huns. So the Huns were a tribal confederacy of late antiquity. They probably originated in Asia, bordering China for God knows how long, and in the 2nd century AD they started to migrate west for some reason, all the way to Europe, where they settled in Pannonia, which I believe is today's Hungary. They arrived in the darkest period of Roman history, and they quickly became a menace for city-dwelling Romans. All kinds of silly rumors began to circulate, including the idea that Huns are not actually humans, or that they never get off their horses, or that they are spawns of demons and Ostrogothic witches. And in the 5th century all these fears culminate with Attila the Hun and his rise to power. He was the sum of all Roman fears, and he was prophesied to destroy the civilized world of that era. And it is this dark legend of Huns that inspired this build, not the actual Huns. I am sure they were lovely people. As for the build itself, it tries to portray a fear-inspiring nomad, master of bow and horse riding, who can beat anyone with the combination of speed and psychological warfare. It requires 2 crafting skills to work, unfortunately, as I didn't want him to use magic, and without illusion you have very few ways to inspire some fear. One would be enchanting your weapon, but I also wanted Zephyr for its amazing firing rate. So I settled for fear poisons, and it is a rather hard task to increase the max level of enemies affected by these without really maxing out your alchemy with a proper player enchanted alchemy gear. Other than that, the build is insanely fast and fun to play, manipulating enemies through poisons, avoiding them with superior speed and shouts, killing everything before it can touch him. It is also one of those when I try to stay vanilla as much as I can, so there is no mods required for him. One is, however, strongly suggested, and it is convenient horses, as it adds a lot of fun to a character like this, namely the trampling damage and the saddleback's inventory space. It also makes aiming with your bow from horseback a tiny bit less tedious. This beautiful character is very self-sufficient and requires very few items to work wonders. Once Zephyr is acquired and some perks in archery unlocked, the basic combat style becomes available. You should use the mobility of lightly armored build to avoid direct combat and keep your distance, which is very easy outdoors, where you can stay on horseback and release your arrows from it. Indoors, however, you will need some shouts, namely the first word of Whirlwind Sprint. Poisons of Slow, which are very easy and cheap to make, will also help you keep your speed advantage, and the high-level poisons of Fear will make most humanoid enemies run away from you, so alchemy will contribute to the stay out of melee rich part of your combat style. Okay, that is the general idea and introduction. Now for the backstory. For many years of your life, it was you and your mother. You were a team. You traveled the ash wastes of Morrowind together, unearthing its secrets, facing its hardships. You never knew your father, and she never mentioned him. You could only guess that your recklessness, your lack of fear are from his blood, not your mother's, as she was a rather timid person, albeit very resilient, able to withstand your strange lifestyle. You never had any home. You and your mother were constantly traveling, like you were escaping from something or someone. Yet another secret clouding her past, and one you could never ask about. Your guess was she once was a member of some Ashlander tribe, a witch or a shaman. She was, after all, incredibly skilled in both alchemy and enchanting, and she was very eager to teach you these arts. You would learn, however. What you loved the most was hunting and fighting off bandits. You were her protector, very devoted and efficient one. So, that was your life. Aimless wanderings and occasional violence, until one morning you found your mother will not wake up anymore. She passed away in her sleep. No parting words, no complaints, no screams, as if she just decided it is time. She was the only reason why you stayed in Morrowind for all these years, and now you feel it is time to join other Dunmer in their flight west. Go to Skyrim, find the greener lands, and kill all those who would oppose you. Hunt down those who would abuse the weakness of your people. Whoever your father was, this is the legacy he's left you, the legacy of blood and bloodthirst. Ta-ta! That was another dark story. This is a rule here. Dark elves get dark backstories, and I like that rule. Alright, let's get back to gameplay with the attribute spread, which should be 1 health per 1 stamina increase for first 20 levels or so, and after that you just go full on health. You will have several items and other bonuses to your stamina, as well as your stamina regeneration, so more than 200 base stamina would just be a waste. One of these bonuses I just mentioned is the one from the Lady Stone. I think it will be the best choice here, as you are an alchemist and your magic resistances will be covered by potions, so Lord and Atronach, albeit quite useful, would both become redundant pretty quick, with the Ring of Namira bonus to stamina and the ability to eat corpses for some health regeneration, as well as with some food items and the Predator's Grace Boots and... well, it all amounts to a pretty hefty regeneration for all your key attributes, especially stamina. You will basically never run out of it. And now for the race, which was a very tough choice for this one, as there is just no direct equivalent for Huns or any other steppe nomadic people in Tamriel. I went for a dark elf because they have some pretty dark lore background, with that curse making them all grey and ashy, and they do have a very special relationship with the Daedra, which mirrors the legend of Huns being the offsprings of demons. Also, just like the Huns, the Dunmer are migrating west. Naturally, the Wood Elf would probably be a better choice in terms of pure gameplay. When it comes to your skills, you should of course focus on archery and light armor first. Archery will be your most important skill, and the one requiring a lot of your perk points, as we want almost every perk here. On the right hand side we really want that ranger perk, so we will take that one rank of critical shot and almost useless perk called Hunter's Discipline as prerequisites. The reason for ranger being a vital perk is simple: this archer doesn't use sneak at all, as stealth will be rendered obsolete by predator's grace shoes, and we just want to go for that combat archery combat style. It is a very enjoyable and reliable style, but only with that ranger perk. On the left hand side we also need everything, with high emphasis on quickshot and power shot perks. Quickshot will combo very well with your Zephyr bow. The perk will give you 30% increase to your weapon speed, and the bow will give another 30%. This rate of fire combines well with power shot, as you will see that recoil effect of power shot happening quite often. And the same applies to bullseye, which I would normally skip, especially with an alchemy build, but this insane rate of fire we have here makes that 15% of paralysis per hit rather attractive looking. Yes. Paralysis applied by this perk is affected by Fortify Alteration potions, which we will use as well. In light armor tree you need everything but matching set, and Unhindered should be taken as soon as possible, as movement speed is such a huge part of your combat style. Windwalker will add to the insane stamina regeneration this character needs. It means you will be able to sprint and use your steady hand slow time with no problems whatsoever. You can skip deft movement, as you will very rarely take a hit anyway. I went for this perk though, as it just suits so well. In the alchemy tree you need all ranks of alchemist, and then poisoner and concentrated poisons. I will give you a short overview of what poisons we will use most frequently. For now, let's just say you need to max out the effectiveness of your poisons. Effective use of fear poisons does require of you to reach 100 in this skill as fast as you can, and for that purpose you also want to have a full set of Fortify Alchemy gear. With a bit of hard work between your alchemy and enchanting tables, you will be able to affect NPCs of level 38 or lower with your fear poisons, and it is actually quite a lot of humanoid NPCs and monsters. These poisons will open up a cool combo when you can scare your enemies and shoot them as they flee to kill them off. This evokes hit and run tactics the historic Huns employed. The benefactor is listed mainly for the Fortify enchanting potions, which you also need to make to get your highly refined fear poisons. Speaking of enchanting, going as far as the extra effect perk would be OP to the point of breaking your game, essentially forcing you into legendary difficulty in order to keep any sort of challenge. It may be quite enough to go just for the 5 ranks of enchanter and the insightful enchanter perks, as this is enough for crafting our alchemy gear and maxes out our Fortify Archery items. It may actually be a good idea to place that Fortify Archery on 2 item slots. That's it for the main skills. However, this build also has some secondary skills which are in no way necessary for the combat style or roleplay for that matter, but may smoothen your experience a bit. You may, for example, need the Arcane Blacksmith perk to improve your bow on higher difficulty levels. You may also need an option to use a sword from time to time, and in fact I did take 3 ranks of Armsman in the one-handed tree and 1 rank of Shield Wall, as well as quick reflexes in block. And now let's talk about the items for a minute, of which the most important will be, of course, the Zephyr, a go-to weapon for any ambitious combat archer and Skyrim's way of becoming Legolas, generally one of the best bows in the game. If you can't tell already, I freaking love this bow. Rapid rate of fire is what this build is all about, so This awesome weapon should be taken as soon as you are ready to go into some Dwemer ruins. Then we will need Predator's Grace Shoes, which grant us complete muffle effect. Very useful for some ambushing action, but we need it mostly for the increase in stamina regeneration. And you will also wear the Ring of Namira. The blood of your mysterious father compels you to seek out the Daedric princes and maybe even serve them. And eating the flesh of your enemies is your way of proving your superiority. But I promised to elaborate on alchemy and concoctions, and it is in fact a major part of your playstyle. There are 4 alchemical effects you should always look for, and that is Slow, Fear, Weakness to Poison, and Fortify Alteration. Fear may be hard to come by, so keep looking for Namira's rods and Netch jellies. Weakness to poison will be used at the start of the fight to make the enemies more susceptible to fear poisons. This will mean your tactics of scaring them off and firing arrows at their backs will be still viable against Briarhearts and Bandit Chieftains. Slow is just very useful for any character relying on movement speed and agility, and it can be found in easily accessible ingredients such as Salt Pile and Death Bell. Some enemies will be immune to fear, namely the undead, dragons and the Dwemer machines, so against these types you may need to use the well-known OP combo of rapid fire in slow time, granted by the slow time shout. Duration of this slow time effect is increased with Fortify Alteration potions. These potions will also affect the duration of Paralysis effect of your Archery Bullseye perk. There is one recipe I'd like to show, and it is displayed on screen right now. This is made from cheap ingredients and it has 2 of your go-to alchemical effects in one poison. Follow that with your fear poisons and the battlefield control is yours. And for the shouts, you need only 3 of them. One word of Whirlwind Sprint should be your main way of avoiding close combat, most likely paired with bashing with your bow and sprinting. Quite a lot of enemies is just too slow to catch up to you after you use that shout, especially if they are slowed down by your poisons. This May is an additional mean of crowd control just in case you would like to use some different poisons, and its effectiveness can be increased by weakness to magic poisons. And the slow time, as I said earlier, is basically your boss killing tool, and panic button in case of overwhelming odds. And that's basically it. To sum up, with this build you get some incredibly fast-paced combat style, which feels immensely powerful without actually forcing you to grind up all the crafting skills. It combines my favorite things in Skyrim. There's fast combat action, there is a bit of planning, there is tactics, and there is alchemy! Also, it has that thing I don't really love so much, which is Skyrim's horse combat. I know it's not great, alright, I know, but in its defense, here are some things I observed. The giants are too slow to harm you when you run around them on horseback, and they just can't land a successful hit. Your horse will quite often tank damage for you, giving you more time for making a precise shot and then reposition. If you use convenient horses, trampling bandits with your horse can be a good opening move in combat, even if you eventually decide to jump off your horse. Okay, I'm done here. Hope you all like the build, and maybe some of you would like to try it, tweak it, remaster it, and basically have a lot of fun with it. If that is the case, let me know in the comments. We will see each other again. Bye bye.